Okay, welcome everybody. We are talking about accountability and who are you accountable to, and should you have an accountability partner? And so I just want to, I'll open it up. I'll turn it over to Marianne, and then she'll turn it over to Trinity, and then I'll kind of close this out with just some things that that will help you think and get back on the right track. So you guys know I have always had to work this business for a paycheck. And so my family, I always had to be accountable to my family. So I'm just going to tell you what I think sets me apart or makes me different from a lot of people is that my husband, when we got our starter kit, he listened to every training CD in there with me. He already knew the potential of this business. Every time I come home, I tell him what I sold, what I made. I keep him updated and informed on everything. And so he keeps me on track because I can't, I think what happens is a lot of times the women pays the bills, the husbands, they just go to work and they may not always know how much money is out there and how much money their wives are leaving on the table. They just see themselves as, oh, she's got to leave tonight. I've got to watch the kids. And you may not be coming home and letting them know because you like to have your stash. I get that. But I promise you that if you will just take God as your partner with your husband, and be upfront with him about the potential of the income that you can make and be accountable to him, things are going to change, and they're going to change in a mighty way. And so I'm just putting that out there because I'm kind of thinking that might be the case for some people, that nobody's telling you how much money you need to bring to the family, okay? Because you might be controlling everything. I wasn't that way. Andy always controlled everything. So I'm just going to say a few things, and then I'm going to turn it over to Marianne. Like I said, I'll close it out. I was never afraid of failure. It was not ever an option. Not even in my most insecure times. I was never ever afraid of failure. Because in my eyes, I was an athlete, and we lost games. We just go out and play harder the next time. We learned what we did wrong. We fix it. We correct it. And so all through my life, when I would make a mistake or miss a goal, I learned more from missing that goal than I did from hitting that goal. And so always being on a team, I knew I was, accountable to those team players, those teammates. And so Mary Kay was just nothing new. It was just like being on a team. So to me, if you wanted to put like an equation to it, failure equaled quitting. And I'm not a quitter. I never liked quitting. I don't even like, none of my kids have ever quit anything until this year when Hudson quit football, and it almost killed me. We won't get into that whole thing, but you know what? When God closed that door, and we felt like for health reasons, it was in his best interest too, because he was getting sick, he was getting headaches, his personality was changing. That very next week, God opened the window for tennis, and he's an amazing tennis player. And we had no idea. And so quitting was never it was never part of me. It was never part of me. See, quitting is a habit, and so is persevering. So you get to choose which habit you have, okay? The habit of staying on course, being accountable to your family, your teammates, and your customers, because believe it or not, they're watching you. You've always heard me say at every level there's a new devil. Do I ever think about quitting? Oh yeah, in my weak moments, in my dark times, because it's an emotional business. And sometimes I can't handle the emotions. But then I'm like, I slap myself out of it. I'm like, what the heck am I thinking? Oh my gosh. I go back and look at my last paycheck, and I look how many hours I worked. And I'm like, this is nuts. Guys, I'm being real with you, because that is how Satan gets in your head. At every level, there's a new devil. But I'll tell you what gets me right back on track every time is that I've got a little 8-year-old, and ever since she was 5 years old, that is all she's ever talked about was doing Mary Kay. And that was part of the reason I started recording these Zooms, was that my training would always be there for her and for my daughter-in-laws and for anybody that comes down the road. My YouTube training is there. And so I'm accountable to Mary Beth to stay the course, whether I reach my goal or not. And I've told her, I said, Mary Beth, whether I become a national or not, you're right behind me, and this might be me blazing the trail for your story, for you. But I'm still plugging ahead because I've been given the vision. But your children are watching you. They're watching you. And the whole stop, go, just go. It is not always easy. It's simple. It's not always easy because we're women and our emotions are tied to it because we get our hearts broken. But your emotions are not real. They change with the wind, okay? And like I talked about on Voxer this week, a lot of people are medicated because of the emotions. And when that happens, you have to know the good and the bad with your medication. With that comes, you have no lows, but you have no highs either. So you can't get excited. You can't stay motivated. I can't imagine, because praise God, I have fought and always looked for a more natural approach to, the highs and lows. I'm 50. I'm going through menopause. So yeah, that's a whole nother ball of wax. But you've got to know what you're putting in your body and how it's causing you to react. That's why I've always taught you guys, if you ever do private coaching with me, I talk a lot about tracking your emotions, okay? Because that also will affect your accountability to your business, your customers, your family, okay? And your teammates. Because it's your emotion, your stop, go. And so track your emotions, understand your body, listen to your body, and figure out, did this new medicine cause me to feel this way? Absolutely. All right, let's see if we can figure out another way around this. Is the Band-Aid really worth it, basically? All right, so persevering is a habit, and so is quitting. Sometimes, here's this, I want you to write this down. Please write this down. Sometimes the very circumstances that we're trying to change are the very circumstances God is using to change us. Okay? I'm going to say that again. Sometimes the very circumstances that we are trying to change are the very circumstances God is using to change us. And so bloom where you're planted. Bloom where you're planted. You have to fight for the life that you want to live. There are going to be 10 events in your life that will shape it. There's going to be 7 critical decisions that you make in your life that will shape your life. And there's going to be 5 people in your life that will affect it. Okay? You go through and you write down some of those and you see where you are, midway, beginning, halfway through, and you look at how they've affected you, negative or positive. Guess what? From this point on, you get to decide what next 10 events are going to shape, and in what way, positive or negative. How the next 7 crucial decisions that you make are going to shape you, negative or positive. And the 5 people that you allow in your space now that you are in Mary Kay, and you know the power of the 5 people that you hang around with most, you get to change that from this point, this moment, from this very video conference, from this point on. Okay, so I challenge you that's hard to look at. I didn't even want to write them down, but it's hard to look at. But go ahead and write them down, and you see the decisions that you make. Your daily decisions have shaped you, okay, good or bad. Your daily, just small little steps that you've made have shaped you sent you in the right direction or the wrong direction. All right, so Mary Ann, I'm going to turn it over to you for a minute, and then Trinity, and then I'll kind of close this out, okay?
When we first started talking about accountability, I started thinking, what do I know about it? Where did I learn it and everything? And I really felt like in our society, in the masses, proper accountability is not taught or learned or experienced. So I think that by default and not knowing, we have a lot of negative experiences with accountability and maybe have learned the wrong way to hold people accountable. So, this is something that's really important as entrepreneurs and just as people of excellence, as, wives, moms, et cetera, family members. And so that's one thing I absolutely love about this business, is that it teaches us the proper way to hold people accountable. And so the reason why it's so important, God created it so that, he created us to function as a body. He never made for people to be able to exist and thrive completely on their own, autonomous. And so he talks about so much of us being a body and helping each other. And so accountability is one way that works out. And so for me, right now in my stage in my business, Michelle's not asking me how I'm doing, every day, every week or whatever. I just check in with her when I feel like it, and sometimes, I'll tell her when things are going great and she cheers me on. When things aren't going great, I definitely go to her and say, this is what's going on and this is what I'm going to do. And she says, that sounds great. Because when you don't hold yourself accountable, you have two options. So if you're going to work all by yourself, never engage in accountability, not have a mentor, then that means you're the one who's responsible for holding the standard. And we're imperfect humans. And so it's very easy when things get hard for us to just drop the standard and just say, well, never mind. And when you don't have accountability, it's very easy for you to let that go and let it go. No one's going to ask you about it or anything. So when you have a mentor, when you have someone who's helping hold you accountable, they're the one who's helping hold that standard for you. And when things get hard, we have fight or flight. That's something psychologically that we have for survival. And so when you have someone there with you, they're there to hold that standard for you and encourage you, and so that you fight to reach that standard, to get what you really want, okay, for your future. Maybe not what you want in that moment when you're emotional, but for your future. That's a phrase that Pam Shaw says often, and it's something like, is this my best yes, for now or for my future? And usually that retreating thought is not your best yes for your now or your future. So I love accountability. Basically, when you choose to be accountable, and that's the thing, people can't hold you accountable if you don't want to be held accountable. It's a two-way street. It's like the tennis. You got to hit the ball back and forth. And if they hit you the ball and you're just like, let the ball go, you just keep letting the ball go, they can't help you, And so it is a decision, and it's a wise decision to say, I'm going to let you hold me accountable. God talks about that there's power in the counsel of wise people, and that without counsel, without wisdom, then you're in trouble. Okay. And so I love how he creates all this accountability and everything. And, accountability is not pointing out what you did wrong. It's not saying, well, why didn't you do that? Or whatever. It's just like checking in, and asking for permission. What should I do next? What's the next best thing? Or even you coming up with your own ideas. And so I love accountability. National Sales Director Jill Davis, she said, accountability is a gift. And I thought about that because, Cheryl offered for us directors to call in on Mondays for a director training. And I didn't know, but we could send our numbers to them. I forgot about that part. And, the fact that I get free training from a national and she wants to help me, oh my gosh, that is such a gift. And so there's all kinds of accountability, like going to events, our weekly success meetings, that's accountability. Going to corporate events, that's accountability. Having, calling in on Sunday nights, that's accountability. So kudos to all of you guys. Pat yourself on the back. Because that's a really important decision. People are watching you, whether you know it or not. Like, that is so huge. And I just want to encourage you guys to remember that when you have your moments for yourself, think about the other people around you. Last thing, I think that's all I had though. Okay.
Good.
Trinity, you ready, girlfriend?
I'm ready. Hey guys. I'm so glad to be back. I'm so excited to see you guys. So I just want to tell you two stories. One of them, well, both of them are kind of about my husband. So accountability is something that I've always strived to have. and that has always really helped me in reaching my goals, as I'm sure it does a lot of people. But my husband is, he's the best thing in the entire world, and he's right next to me, so he gets to listen to me talk about him. He is so amazing. He does the laundry, he cooks, he cleans. He is just incredible. He's very OCD, so he has to do all of those things. And God love him, he has to live with me. But he's not a business entrepreneur minded person. He's very much a 9 to 5, go to work, retire from your job, and be happy. He's very happy with his life. Me, on the other hand, I'm always like, okay, let's see what the next best thing is. What can I be doing? What can I, excel in? How can I reach my goals? And so whenever I started this business, we were just dating, so I didn't really ask his permission. I was just like, well, guess what I did? And so once we got married, it was kind of hard for me because he wasn't very supportive in the way that I needed him to be, because he didn't understand the entrepreneur, the business aspect. He's just kind of like, well, go to work, make money. It's easy, be a teacher, because we're both teachers. And so it was something that I really had to adjust to, because he's my best friend. And so I really wanted to be able to go to him for accountability. But if he didn't understand what I was doing, or really want to be, it wasn't that he didn't want to be a part of it. It was just that that's not his thing. He just is not a very business oriented person. And so whenever I realized this was this was not going to work for him to be my accountability partner, I had to search outside. I had to find someone else to really hold me accountable in a way that I needed. So Michelle, Marianne, any of my director friends really helped me be accountable in the way that I needed to. Plus, God love my husband, but whenever I have him hold me accountable, like I'll say, hey, Josh, I'm starting this new diet. I'm so excited. And then he's like, well, then why are you eating cookies? And then I just get ticked off, and I'm like, well, don't ask me questions. I'm eating cookies today, but not tomorrow, And so you've got to find the right person to hold you accountable, because if your husband makes you angry whenever he asks you why you're not at a party or why you're not doing something for your business, then that's not going to work, right? So find a friend, a power partner, your director, something like that to help you. Another really big story for me with accountability is 2 years ago, around this time, actually, we were on target to earn my first free car. So my unit was working. We were working so hard. I was so excited. And so it was the first 6 months of the year, that year, that we were working, and we were on target. We were killing it. It was going great. And so you guys know that the Mary Kay year ends June 30th, right? Well, it was June 9th, and we suddenly had a death in the family. Josh's dad passed away from a heart attack, and it just completely floored us. It was not expected. We had no idea. And so literally, it was June 9th. The end of the year was June 30th. And every single person, every customer, every consultant, everybody that I knew, I had told them, we're earning a car on June 30th. Like, it's happening. Not a question, not, anything that we were wondering. It was happening. We were earning a free car. And so this happened in the middle of June, and it kind of like shook my world. But the cool thing was, and it was kind of weird at the time, but now looking back, it really was an amazing thing. At the funeral, we're at the actual funeral home for his dad, and one of my church friends, who was also my customer, came up to me at visitation, and she was like, Trinity, I'm just so sorry. And she was talking to me, and she said, but guess what? You're going to earn that free car on June 30th. It was just like, I had told her it was happening. So she thought, oh, well, it's obviously happening. Like, there's no doubt about it, because I was so confident that we were earning. But then I was like, oh, yeah, but we have to work for it. It doesn't just come. And so that moment made me realize that I had that accountability with my customers, with my consultants, so much so in the way that I did. I finished that car with my unit. We destroyed the production that we needed, and then 3 months later we earned the second free car. And so that is a really cool story for me, because if I hadn't told anyone, if I had kept it a secret and I hadn't told my customers or anybody, she wouldn't have come up to me that day, and who would have blamed me for not earning the free car that month? You know what I mean? For kind of just shutting down for a couple of weeks and saying, oh, well, next time I'll do it. I'll just start over next month or something like that. Nobody would have blamed me. But because I had that accountability, and she doesn't even know she did it for me. She just she just thought she was giving me good news. Like, congrats, you're going to get your free car in a couple months. So keep that in mind. It really is important to have your customers, your team members, everybody on your side and holding you accountable. So, Michelle, I'll pass it to you.
Trinity, thank you. That story never, ever gets old. And so it reminds me of my story, too, on that same, was it the same? I guess it was the same year. It was last year. Wasn't it last year?
It was 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Okay, so my story was last year. But before I tell my story, I want you guys to know that, and Trinity will remember this, and so will Mary Ann. One thing as a sales director that I'll always do is I know the power and the importance of having that supportive husband, okay? And I know because Trinity will tell you every time she did something like, great, I'm like, what did Josh say? Or whenever Mary Ann would do something like, Mary Ann, what did Chris say? It wasn't, here's why. I didn't want to say, Trinity, run and show Josh how much money you made. Because, you know, it's your money. Or Mary Ann, run and show Chris how much money. I want to say it in a way that you're bragging to him and you're showing him you're being accountable to get that ball rolling, because I never know what role the wives play in the finances, just like I mentioned. And so I knew if they just kept showing the money that eventually they will get on board. And I knew they were making the money. And so that's why when you hear me say, what did so-and-so say? What did your husband say? That's why I'm like, go show him the money, because he will get on board. Andy was so on board. I remember one time he said, hey, why don't you hold a party every night next week? Because I really need some new hiking equipment. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you pimping me out? All right, so my story was last year, and speaking of being accountable, Trinity didn't realize, but I was trying to be accountable to her because we're always on the court of sharing together, and that's something we do together, and I love that we do that together. And it was Wednesday, and the end of the year was on Saturday, and I was 7 people away. I'm not going to go into all the magic that happened, but I conceded. I gave in. I told Trinity. I texted her. I think I boxed her. I said, Trinity, this is the hardest call I'll ever have to make, but I'm not going to be on the court of sharing with you. I only have one more party left, and I have one interview, and I don't know how I'm going to get this done. And that was the hardest call. The habit of quitting that I don't have. Remember, persevering is a habit, and so is quitting. And I was sick to my stomach for the rest of the week. Decided to take my kids on Friday to swim. I conceded. I'd given up, and I had one more interview to do at 3 o'clock that day. She stood me up. I was ticked off. Got in my car at 3:15, and I said, you know what? I'm 24 hours left. I am not going to let her. I'm not going to let her win, because when you let people create your world, they always create it smaller. And from 3:15 until the next night at 9 p.m., actually 8:56 p.m., I sold $6,000, and I had my 7th person in, and I was on the court of sharing with Trinity. I did it. It was a miracle. But all because I had to be accountable to Trinity. Plus, I didn't want to go to seminar, and my consultants that they were going didn't see me on stage. Because if they don't see me on stage, they don't think they can get on stage. And so the speed of the leader is the speed of the gang. And so it was so important that I fight, and I fought for what I wanted, and that I fought to be accountable to Trinity. I don't have a senior. You guys know my senior passed away. We don't have a national. I am very particular who I put in our space. Okay, I'm a smother mother. That goes for whose space I'm in. Very particular. And so I sometimes find it hard to find a mentor and to find someone to be accountable. But God wasn't surprised by all this when I joined Mary Kay. He knew that Andy would be my accountability partner because the way we run our home. And he knew that I would always be accountable to my offspring sales directors because I can't ask them to do something that I'm not doing. And so remember that as you always go forward with people following you, okay? You are the best player on your team. And when you can't get up there and hit a home run, they don't think they can either, all right? You've got to swing for the fence. So here's another quote. I gave you a quote earlier. So there is the knowledge of what you want and is a burning desire. Like the knowledge of what you want and a burning desire to possess it. That is the quality of a person. That is the quality that a person should possess to be a winner. Okay. The knowledge of what you want. You got to know what you want and you got to have a burning desire to get it. The aching of wanting and reaching a goal is not all roses. We all know that, okay? Don't run from that feeling, all right? I know that's a feeling that everybody tries to, squash, is all those ambitious feelings because they kind of make your stomach tingle and they get you all nervous. But guys, that's living. That is living. So the aching of wanting and having a goal is not all roses, but ambition, aspirations, and desires can be uncomfortable, even painful. They can be nerve-wracking, like I said. But if you don't have those desires, you cannot reach that goal, okay? Don't cover up and don't put a Band-Aid on those feelings. Put a voice to your dreams. Tell everybody, just like Trinity did. She put a voice to her dreams. And that one person that was living vicariously through her is what changed it, okay? That one person that canceled on me. Actually, she didn't. She just stood me up. That I've always, being pissed off has always been a fire. That it worked. Sometimes it works opposite on people. It gets me motivated, okay? Some people would just go home crying and say, I'm going to quit, throw themselves on the bed. And I'm just like, I'll show you, if this horse is dead, I'm going to go get on another horse and I'm going to ride off into the sunset. And so put a voice on your dreams, okay? It will be a little uncomfortable, but I promise you, that is the secret to reaching your goals and staying the course, okay? Staying the course. Remember, quitting is a habit and so is persevering. You get to pick. And then for your homework, I want you to write down those 10 events that have shaped your life and those 7 critical decisions that have shaped your life and the 5 people in your past that have shaped your life to this point, okay? And then I want you to write down some of the negative things that you think that they've caused, but then there might be some great people in your life and what they've caused. Like if you've been in Mary Kay for a while, you've had a lot of good stuff being pumped in. And from this point on, you guard your heart, okay? You guard your goals. Tell the people that will encourage you, your goals, that protect your goals from the people that will discourage you. Sometimes the people who love us the most support us the least, and that leaves very little room for growth and success. And so guard your goals until they are deep rooted within you and you are unshakable. Okay. Anybody want to add anything or anybody have any questions? Marianne said successful people are comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yep. Get uncomfortable. There you go. Did I say all my quotes right? Yes. There you go. All right. So, guys, thank you so much. I hope this was helpful. It's recorded, and we just so appreciate you being on. And you can always go back and listen. It'll be on the website tomorrow or the YouTube channel tomorrow, okay? Good night, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.